Well, welcome everyone to the Veteran Show. It is a pleasure to be here today. And as always, we have great people in our show as we conduct interviews presenting the different topics. They are relevant to veterans, to the veteran community, and to military connected families. So it's always a pleasure to be here. And our first guest is Kelly. She is a um, not just an attorney, she is the best business attorney you could ever find. I know Kelly for years, and it's always been a pleasure talking with her and just getting her knowledge and her ability to break down those complicated concepts, the legalese and all kind of stuff in a way that I can understand. So it's always a pleasure to have Kelly on the show. And with that, Kelly, it is a pleasure to see you again.
Lovely to be here, Joe. Always a pleasure to share some wisdom with you and our wonderful listeners. But
Absolutely.
obviously, before we go into anything, Joe, I do need to share my disclaimer. So,
Of
any
course.
information that I share today is does not create an attorney-client privilege. And if you would like further information, we are always happy to help any of our veterans, veteran families. And again, thank you all for your service. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. And it's always um, a pleasure to have you on the show. And even though we don't have a chance to say all the things, all the great things that you do, have done, and you are involved in, it just want the audience to know that I really admire your success, and I'm honored to have you on the show, and for you to be such a great friend to us personally and us for the chamber. So I
Thank you
appreciate
so
that.
much, Joe. Thank you. The sentiments are exactly the same. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And with that, we wanted to talk today about the kind of confusing versus type of situations. So when we start a business, we usually budgets or whatever is are different than when become people become successful in the business. But there's ways to minimize overhead and all that kind of stuff. So what I wanted to talk to you about is the difference in of licensing a business versus what is to have a business opportunity. If you can clarify that for us, that would be great.
Absolutely, I would love to, Joe. And I do apologize prior to if you're going to hear some noises in the background. Those are my dogs. We are a very dog friendly office, and they didn't get the memo today. I told them that I was going to be on the show today, so I told them please
Right.
be quiet. But if they do sort of if you hear them, they're saying hello.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay. Now, the differences between different types of entities. So, Joe, you and I have covered this probably quite extensively, if you will, over the past couple of episodes that we have done. And we actually discussed the differences between franchising, licensing, and business opportunities. And I know that I had gone into depth regarding franchising and licensing, but we haven't quite touched upon the business opportunity
Right.
aspect of it. And so this is a great time for that. When someone wants to start a business, say you want to start a business or buy a business or become an entrepreneur, you have different types of ways that you can become a business owner. And again, just really quickly, franchising is where basically someone has done all the work for you. They have created your manuals, they have created your to-do list, they have created and verified the vendors. They know exactly where to get the products from. They know exactly how to market this. So that is a franchising opportunity where everything is done for you. However, there's a lot of oversight on franchising, and it is also governed by state law as well. So if you're interested in franchising, please definitely go back and listen to that episode. Now, licensing, and franchising can be quite costly as well. Licensing is literally where you are granting someone a right to use your intellectual property. Now, intellectual property can be anything from a logo to a trademark to a name to intellectual, to actual secrets to knowledge. So all of that kind of falls into the definition of intellectual property, IP. So when you want to license your IP to someone, that would be through a licensing agreement. And again, we've spoken quite in depth about licensing. Now, this
Hmm.
brings us to business opportunity. Now, let me give you an example of a business opportunity. A business opportunity could be your local vending machine down the road, right? So you have a company that provides vending machines, and so what they do is they'll go, one, secure locations, they'll secure contracts, they place their vending machines at these different locations, and then they make sure that the vending machines are fully stocked and that they are operating correctly. Now, this is an example of a business opportunity. I actually have a client that is in the middle of purchasing a vending machine company. So let's stay with vending machines. Right. So for
Okay.
vending machines, for example, someone wants to sell their business and it's a vending machine business. So with a vending machine business, again, you're in business, you have contracts, you have clients, and you have some sort of marketing behind you. So you're actually in business, and you want to sell that business now. Now, this what creates it to be a business opportunity is a couple of things. Now, one, it's not governed by state law as much. It's actually over the oversight of a business opportunity is by the Federal Trade Commission. So the FTC is all over business opportunities. The reason why is because they want to make sure that you're not being sold a lemon, if you will, right? You paid
Right.
for a diamond and you've just been sold a lemon. So the oversight is FTC's oversight. Now it has to be a brand new business, right? So it has to be a brand new business. The vending machine business aspect. Now someone can come in and say, I want to buy that business, but the business has to be brand new. So the person that's buying the business, they create their business, right? So it's a brand new business that they are going to be purchasing. So it has to be a brand new business. It has to come as a package, Joe. That's the biggest thing here for a business opportunity. So
Mm.
if you were going to buy a vending machine business, it has to come with the products, right? It's got to come with the vending machines. It's going to
Right.
come with the contracts that you already have in place. It's going to come with any marketing that you might have done, and definitely your client list as well. So a business opportunity comes as a package. So it's all packaged together, and that's going to be the business that you're going to pay for. The other features about having a business opportunity is that you only pay one time, and that's when you're purchasing the business. You
Mm.
only pay one time. With licensing, Joe, we have licensing fees, we have onboarding fees, we have royalties, we have, you can call whatever this fee is, fee. So these fees can be made up, so to speak, right? But for with business opportunity, it's a one-time purchase, one time. With business opportunities, there is hardly any control whatsoever. There's no support for you, and there's no the other person has zero control over what you do with your business opportunity. The cost of it, that can vary. It's definitely less expensive out of the three types of businesses. It's definitely less expensive than franchising, and it's less expensive than licensing, depending on what you're licensing as well. And also keep in mind, with licensing, you do have royalty fees that you pay for the life of the grant of the IP. So you're paying until the rights have been taken away from you. With your business opportunity, it's yours. It's yours. No, you don't have rights. They are yours. Nothing's granted to you. You have purchased it outright. Those are some of the differences, like the big differences between the three different types of businesses, business types, if you will.
Right.
But I think, did you have any questions there, Joe, at all?
Actually, yes, and I'm gonna put myself in the audience shoes, and let's see if I understand this correctly. So let's say I owned a vending machine company. I started the business in San Diego, and I said, well, it'd be great if people in LA could also have access to my vending machines. And so I'm going to set this up business opportunity that is not existing yet in LA and look for buyers on my business opportunity and and locate someone who has the financial ability to be a, a business opportunity owner, if you will. So when that someone shows up and says, "Hey, I'm interested on your vending machines," my side of it, according to what I understood, was then I'll say, okay, now these are the vending machines that I'm offering. I'm offering one, two, three, or whatever the package is. This is the products they're going to go in the machine, whatever. So when they buy those machines, they are the ones that basically is their business. Now that they bought that, and is they can learn within my concept where to market, all that kind of stuff. But I am not responsible, obligated, and it's even um, not legal for me to kind of train them, teach them, consult them on how how to go and promote their business for them. They have to get their own contracts. They have to get their own clients. All I did was sell the business, like business in a box, if you will. Here it is. Go do it.
That
Am
is
I correct?
100% correct. Yes, it's a
Okay,
business in a
perfect.
box. It's yours. You've paid for it. I have no more liability. All the liabilities on you, the buyer, and it's up to you to make this a success. Yes, it's basically a business opportunity. Is once you buy it, it's yours.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Well, that was a great clarification. It makes total sense in my head. And now that we, I mean, every time we talk, time goes just like so fast. So, so we can spend hours on this. But so now we have this segment, and we have the three segments of franchising, licensing, and business opportunities. So if someone has a question or they want to contact you directly, would you like to give us your contact information?
Absolutely. You can call us. Our direct line is 760-579-6789. And our website is baglalaw.com. Sarah likes to say baglalaw.com.
Sounds good.
Yes.
All right, perfect, perfect. Well, again, Kelly, is as always a great pleasure to hear your wisdom and how you basically break down these complicated issues in a way that everyone can understand. So again, thank you very much for sharing that with us today, and I will see you in the next segment in October.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, Kelly. And with that, we concluded our legal segment for today. And as you saw, Kelly is definitely someone who knows all about business. And even though she's very humble and she's extremely successful and extremely skilled in what she does with businesses. And now we're moving on to our next segment. I would like to introduce our next guest. Our next guest is Dr. Paul Guzman. He's an Army combat veteran, infantry. He actually served in Korea and Iraq and was honorably discharged due to combat injuries. And so Dr. Guzman is dedicated to supporting fellow veterans through research, crisis response, and advocacy, and his role as the communications chair for the Student Veterans Association at Walden University. So Paul combines his military experience with academic and corporate leadership to help veterans both professionally and personally. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Guzman to the show. Uh,
Hello, hello, Joseph. Thank you for having me.
no, thank you. It's a great pleasure having you. And would you rather be addressed as Paul or as Dr. Guzman?
I'm flexible.
All right, so we can do both.
Whatever.
Dr. Paul, how's that?
That works. I sometimes I make jokes and I say Dr. G, but
Oh, okay,
it's
okay.
all good.
Well, good. Well, thank you again. Thank you very much for coming on the show and for
Yeah,
sharing your military experience with us. And like I mentioned to you offline, the chamber is always open to supporting veterans in education. Education is something very important to us, and so
yeah.
anything we can do to support and continue your advocacy at the university, happy to do it. But I do have some questions for you.
Okay.
And so, for question number one is, um, since you transitioned out of the military, so what were your biggest fears or uncertainties that you face or you were projecting to face as you transition out of the military?
Yeah, well, thank you for that question, Joseph, and it's a really good one. Um, I'll provide a little bit of context because my experience was a little bit different. I had went into the military when I was a little bit older.
Mm.
So I had a civilian career prior and then, went into military service. So I think the transition was a little bit easier for me. But that being said, I do believe, like, just one in speaking with veterans and just from my own personal perspective, one of the biggest things that was most nervous about was was I going to be able to still have a sense of purpose, right? It's hard, like when you're doing something so honorably, you're serving with purpose, like you're doing things that matter, you're in a uniform, and then you transition to corporate America or whatever that you're doing in the as a civilian, you start to kind of wonder if what you're going to do is actually going to matter, right? So that was one thing, and I think the second thing was, am I going to be able to translate my experience to civilian life, especially like being in a combat MOS like infantry. I had never had really a desire to get into to law enforcement or be a first responder, which a lot of folks that do transition in the military do. So just the aspect of would my what I did in the military translate to corporate America, if you will. Those are probably my two biggest things that were kind of on my mind.
And I'm glad you said that because that transition point is kind of what triggered for us to start the chamber in the way and to run a chamber that is not your typical chamber, but it has
Hmm.
more of a cohesive 360 approach to the veteran life. Because you're right, and when people transition out of the military, corporate America offered jobs, and in many cases, especially after Iraq, there was a huge push for hiring veterans,
Yeah.
and you're right. Doing the analysis and the research and things like that, that's exactly what we found was like veterans are not looking for a job. That's not the issue.
Hmm.
The issue is the mindset, and that mindset is internal, is the
Hmm.
purpose. So we
Hmm.
found that what you said is so on point because the purpose is exactly what those of us who were transitioning and having issues and challenges
Hmm.
fitting in
Hmm.
were lacking. And that's something that um, in our efforts to educate veterans on how to get back into that point are some of the programs that the chamber offers because of that. This is huge. It's a huge importance. So a job. A job is not necessarily it's not fulfilling. A job
Hmm.
is someone that pays the bills,
Yeah.
and so it's different. It's a huge difference. So thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And now I'm gonna kind of piggyback on that and say, what made the switch for you, Paul? What made the switch like, oh, I landed somewhere, I feel comfortable, I feel home. This is something I want to do.
Um, you know, I think for me, like what helped me, really find that switch to find like that mission oriented. So I looked for organizations that aligned with like my personal values,
Hmm.
right? That's one thing. And then I tried to find roles that it was going to impact, like commuting in a positive way. And I'll give like a specific example. So, while I said I didn't want to get into like law enforcement, it wasn't that I didn't want to do some aspect of like security, right? So outside of working in academia and working with veterans, I work for Amazon, right? I lead security operations as it relates to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical. So I've always been in some aspect of corporate security. So through that, I found the skills that I brought from the military translated very nicely to that. And also, I found myself in positions where I could do things that were, purpose driven. When you think of security, you have teams that do things like business continuity or emergency management. So you're talking about like preparing people to respond and recover from disasters. Like that's very
Right.
purpose driven. There's just kind of the state of affairs across the world, when you think about like violence, and stopping bad actors from doing different types of things that could perpetuate violence or some type of thing against your employees or your executives. Like that's another aspect of purpose. So I always tell veterans that you just have to do your research on the particular companies that you're thinking about transitioning to, read their vision statement, their values, do they align with yours, and then seek roles that where you could still find the opportunity to serve others, right? Serve a purpose greater than yourself. And you'd be surprised, there's just a lot of different roles. It doesn't always have to be security, it could be human resources, it could be other types of safety, that you really find purpose in what you're doing. And that's kind of what did it for me.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
And I agree. It's extremely important that, especially that students can hear it from someone like you, who have been there, have experienced that, gone through the tunnel, if you will, and have crossed the bridge, and look back and said, "This is what made the difference," and being able to give them some direction. Because yeah, when someone gets out, there's no direction really in that facet. I mean, there's a lot of resources that
absolutely.
get thrown at you
Hmm.
on that 1 week. Yeah,
Hmm.
right.
It's here you go. It's here
I
you
mean,
go.
here you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like, but that's not really. It's great for knowledge because you have the intellectual knowledge on what you're learning, what you're hearing, seeing. But the that knowledge doesn't move us. Heart moves us. Doesn't matter who you are. Is
Yeah.
right. So that's very key part of it. Well, I have another question for you.
Yes.
So, what qualities are hiring managers looking well on those who are transition out of the military? What do you think they're looking for when trying to hire veterans who are transitioning out of the military, based on your
And that's a
experience?
really, yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's a really good question, Joseph. So, um, hiring managers in a lot of ways, obviously every company's different. Every position that you look at is different. The competencies, the skills, but the big thing that hiring managers look for in transitioning military personnel is, do they see the ability to transition from military service to? So I often, when I talk to veterans or I talk to friends who are veterans, I always say like, and it's hard to do it, is, you know, not using military jargon. That's super difficult. I mean, I
Right.
still find myself like I used a story one time where I was at Amazon and I met this leader who was starting and introduced himself as Kevin. And then when he said what he did, he was a 4-star general.
Oh wow.
Right. And my natural inclination was to just stand up. Right. We
Right.
were in similar roles at this company, but it was just my natural thing to say, well, your name isn't Kevin, it's Sir. Like, I did, and it's just, so it's understanding like how, when you make these transition, do you still showcase your leadership? You showcase your ability to solve problems, right? Because hiring managers want to know when they're hiring someone, are they going to be able to make the business better than where it's at, obviously when they're looking to hire somebody. So I always say things like, being able to solve problems, not necessarily always use military jargon, be a team player, right? Team dynamics is super important. So, team player is one. And then just the ability and willingness to learn new things, right? That is going to be a key for a lot of hiring managers, because it shows that you're willing to kind of add new skill sets and new perspectives and new competencies to be less successful in your job.
Right. That's really really key part of it. And have you noticed also, like, when we transition out of the military and we want to get into those across level positions? So if you were a sergeant or lieutenant or whatever, and going across to the in the civilian market, as a supervisor, manager,
Mm.
director,
Yeah.
executive, the the it becomes challenging when you just transition out of the military and now you're back into in charge of personnel, just
Hmm.
civilian personnel, and
Yeah.
having the ability to be civilian leading civilians.
That's
That takes a
yes.
while. That takes a
That's an
while.
adjustment for sure. For sure. Like how
Absolutely,
you
absolutely.
communicate, how you manage. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because it's like you said right now. I mean, you met the general. I mean, as you met the general, your first instinct is to you do whatever he says,
Yeah,
right? And like,
absolutely.
and it just automatic. It's
Mm.
ingrained in your inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you respond as a military. So
Yeah.
so yeah, those will be important aspects on helping veterans who are transitioning or about to
Yep.
transition to kind of be aware. And would you agree also to say that it is also part of the time that it takes for that to kind of mature,
Yeah.
or wind down the process from military to a civilian? Because the military, I mean, I've been out for a while, and people that one of our board members is 97 years old. He's been out for
Okay.
a while, and
Okay.
but the military doesn't leave you; it's
Yeah, it
in
doesn't.
you.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, good to know, but being able to do the transition as a civilian person, that's it's also giving yourself time and grace, also to be kind of gentle, because it's not an overnight click.
Absolutely. That's a really good call out. Like you got to give yourself grace. Like and it also, one thing I would just add to that is, if you have the opportunity, find yourself a mentor. If I could have done it all over again, I would have found somebody to, because you learn, right? As you go through things, you pick up new things, you learn different things. It's always helpful to have that mentor.
Hmm.
Because then they could also, like, also reinforce and encourage you to give yourself grace, because it is tough when you're making that transition and
Right.
you think that you're not doing something. So yeah, very well said, Joseph.
Well, and you said the word mentor, and I know we're out of time. Our team back there is telling us we are out of time. So we are out of time, but I know the university has a mentorship program that I happen to be part of it. Thank you very much for the invitation. But I think it's key to have that in as students or veterans are transitioning out, to have that person to bounce ideas, do the chat, and be able to provide the support. So I would like to invite you back and
Yeah,
kind of talk about those programs the university offers that helps veterans, specifically under the education system. So
absolutely.
we'll have another interview. How's that?
Yeah, I would love it. And
Yeah.
thank you. I really appreciate being invited. And, if there's anything I could ever do, I'm always willing to help fellow veterans. So I really appreciate the time today.
Well, and we're really grateful, and we appreciate your role at the university. Extremely important. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you. And that concludes our Veterans Show for today. And as always, we have great people, great content that brings information, resources, and also a little piece of um, knowledge sharing for all those out there who are transitioning out of the military or about to transition and they either start a business or get a new job. So we're here, always willing to support our veteran community. And with that, we'll close our show. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.